morning, welcome back. This is Daybreak. Thank you for staying with us. The hashtag on X is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. On my far right is the Tharaka lawmaker, Honorable George Murugara, who as well is an advocate of the High Court. Good morning.
Morning.
Lovely having you here on the broadcast.
Thank you very much.
He as well chairs the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee of the National Assembly. Diana Gishengo is the National Coordinator, the Institute of Social Accountability. Good morning, Diana.
Good morning.
Lovely having you here. And Franklin Mukwanja is the Executive Director, the Center for Multi-Party Democracy. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. Much to talk about. And we'll be discussing the rule of law and how we are progressing as a country. But first, let's look at the highlights of the front pages of the publications. The Standard says the Acting Inspector General of Police, Gilbert Masengeli, engages in a back and forth with the courts, this time threatening judges with withdrawal of their security. 3 men are now nowhere to be found weeks after it was claimed that they were abducted by police officers. What happened to them, and why is the police service mandated under the Constitution to protect limb and property turning a deaf ear to efforts to find them? They are Aslam Longton, Jamil Longton and Bob Njagi, and this follows the sentencing of the Acting Inspector General for contempt of court. Let's begin there, lady and gentlemen. Honorable Murugara, coming to you first. And given what has been happening the past few days, are you concerned with the developments that are happening, given the circumstances under which the learned judge's security was withdrawn and the explanation given by the Acting Inspector General?
Thank you, Ayub. There is reason to be concerned because some of the allegations that have been made are grave. It has been alleged that the security of the judge was withdrawn. The circumstances may not have been given to us fully because we have not seen any written documents, explanation, or whatever it is that should have been given. Security of the judge is paramount, and it is our belief that either if it was withdrawn, there have to have been reasons. Yeah. Those reasons must be cogent, or maybe there was transfer of security or some internal administrative arrangements which we may not be privy to and which we may not be able to answer to positively now. But all said and done, the security of the judge is paramount because judges have to be protected as they dispense justice. So we need to know the reasons, the circumstances under which this was done, and if it was done as a result of the orders that had been made, that may not be particularly proper. But if it was done administratively, and it cannot be an isolated case, it has to be a case of general administration, then there may be some justification in that. As regards the rest of the development, including failure to answer summons, that again, we can discuss, but I believe it's pending in court, and we have to be cautious of the sub judice rule when we are discussing this matter.
Circumspecting around the nitty-gritty details of a court matter, in response by the Acting Inspector General, he said the 2 officers assigned to the learned judge, being general duty officers, were recalled for arrangements were made to ensure that the learned judge's security was always assured. But are you concerned with the timing of that reassignment?
Right. It does, prima facie, on the face of it, it does raise an eyebrow because the judge was dealing with pending court cases, and then this happens. But it may have been also coincidental that by coincidence that came to be, because we do not know exactly why the officers were withdrawn, but it should have been with immediate arrangements to give him alternative security, because the security of the judge is paramount.
Okay. Diana, what do you make of the little or no regard and the growing anathema towards the rule of law, constitutionalism, and the principles of good governance in the country, given the circumstances that are happening? Of course, we'll be putting under sharp focus the previous developments that also were made by especially the political class. But what do you make of this and the growing anathema towards the rule of law and the little regard for the Constitution?
It's very tragic when you see people who are heading critical constitutional offices disregarding the rule of law. The acting Inspector General in particular, first, it is unlikely that it is a coincidence that the bodyguards were withdrawn for administrative processes. And in addition to them being withdrawn and exposing a judge at a time when he was handling issues touching on people in power, remember before that, the same bodyguards that were transferred had been threatened. So we are actually hoping that their jobs will be secured because they were just executing their roles according to the constitutional mandate. You're assigned this role, you proceed. And what a terrible coincidence, if at all it is a coincidence, that on the day that the acting Inspector General is supposed to have appeared severally before court, what he appears to respond to is his administrative duties away from a constitutional duty to adhere to the rule of law. What happens? What happens? And the NPS is particularly concerning. There were orders that were given in Malindi about how the police must conduct themselves around handling people as they assemble and protest. All those have been completely disregarded. And now we see disregard at the highest level. What are we supposed to do? Take over the role of police, who are the initial enforcers of the law? If they disregard it, what becomes of every other Kenyan? We are courting anarchy. We are courting chaos in every sense. And the respect for the rule of law, respect for independence of the judiciary should not be a news headline. It's something that we must consistently set out to ensure that it is adhered to. And I'm hoping that my senior here, Honorable Murungara, will, in addition to what is happening in court, as we confirm the now appointed substantive Inspector General, that Parliament, remaining the representatives of the people, they will take steps to assure, to lead in questioning the police around how they are going to turn around and become a service that operates within the rule of law. But otherwise, we are in a very... We sent our police to Haiti to try and create peace and order. But what we are creating here, we may end up being rescued by other people if we continue like that.
Mukwanja, what do you make of this and the growing poisoned environment by the political establishment? Because this is not happening in isolation. Of course, a sitting president in 2017, senior government officials even called for the suspension of this constitution because of the events around the nullification of President Uhuru Kenyatta's re-election in 2017. Is this as a result of what has been in the works for a very long time? And a case of now Masengeli just doing the act of kicking the can down the road in not regarding the courts as instrumental as they are and obeying the orders?
Thank you. First, let me just make a quick comment on the issue of the withdrawal of the judge's security. I think the timing is suspicious. That we have to say as it is. And then how many judges? Was it just the judge that was presiding over this case, or several judges were affected? Only on those two instances you can clearly see that what the acting Inspector General of Police is trying to explain to us is part of the whole impunity into our face. There's an old adage that fish starts rotting from the head. And it's very clear in this country since 2013 that we have seen the regime under former President Uhuru Kenyatta deputized by the current president. And even the current regime, that whenever rulings have been done that are not in favor of the regimes, we have seen them, they either criticize bitterly the judiciary or go to aspects of reducing the budget, underfunding, and not responding to the critical issues. And we have seen severally again with this regime that whenever decisions have not gone the government way, they are either ignored or the issue is politicized and judges are criticized from the political podium in a very bad way. And therefore, I agree with you that the acting inspector general is just, among his eye, that he's kicking the can down the road because that's what he's seen his seniors do. And I think it's a wrong trajectory that we're taking. If you look at Articles 26, 27, 28, then you really feel bad for this country that we have leaders in place who are largely beneficiaries of the old order, and they want this unhealthy tension of having the old manners under the new dispensation. And they're really determined to slow down the gains and the progress that the new constitution has brought about. So it's purely at the top, and we cannot mince words on this. Yeah. When the top behaves, I think the rest of the officers of government will really behave. Right. It's not going to be possible when the top is not aligning to the new constitution list.
All right. And Honorable Murugara, as we proceed with this, because we'll also be expanding the horizons of this debate and into how then we can safeguard the gains we made under the current constitutional order. But still on the same, as to why he was sentenced, why Masengere did not appear before the learned judge at the High Court, is because of failing to produce 3 Kenyans who are still missing: Aslam Longton, Jamil Longton, and Bob Njagi. They have been missing for weeks now. Their families are in agony. Does this disturb you as an advocate, as a parent, and as the chair of JLAC, and as a parliamentarian, as a representative of the people of Kenya and the people of Tharaka? What then should we do about this? Because they have to be produced in one way or the other if they have committed crime before a court of law, as an advocate.
Thank you very much. Let me start by going back to where he's just stopped, to say that it's not true that the government does not obey court orders. In fact, the government has obeyed most of the orders, however adverse. Let me also begin by saying it is not wrong to criticize a judgment. Any judgment that comes out, if it's not favorable to you, it does aggrieve you. You can criticize it without being in contempt of the judge or magistrate who did it. So the government has always been saying, here is the verdict, we accept it, but we do not agree. And most of that has been obeyed. Even we go to 2017, the nullification of the election, it was obeyed. We go to recently, there were decisions including the housing fund decision, the finance bill of last year, all these were obeyed. There may be isolated cases, and we must pinpoint the officers who have failed to obey court orders. And really, that may not be generalized as the government not doing. It may have to trickle down to the particular officer who has not obeyed. Masengeli's case. What first was issued was a summons, in as much as I do not wish to discuss this on merits. And when a summons is issued, you can appear in person or appear by advocate. You can only be told not to have answered the summons if you do not appear at all. So it starts from there. How it proceeded is what is before the court. And let me go to the nitty-gritty of that. Leave it to say it is of greatest concern about the 3 Kenyans. The order is that of similar. It may not be habeas corpus. It is similar to say produce these 3 persons. But you can only produce if you have them. If you do not have them, you have to give the explanation that you do not have the persons, and therefore you are not able to produce the individuals. And this is what the court was informed. Now, it is alleged that these were abductions.
Okay.
It may be abductions. It may have been hijackings or whatever it is. What exactly leads us to point out this to the police?
Okay.
That we must answer. Because if the police did it, it is illegal, it is in breach of the law, and they cannot particularly abduct persons and keep them incommunicado for such a long period of time. So if these persons are in the hands of the police, they ought to be produced in the court. If they are not, the police should be in the forefront of informing the court, other Kenyans, that they do not have these persons, what investigations they have done to establish their whereabouts, and what continues to be done so that their rights are protected.
Yeah.
It is of utmost concern to me as an advocate, as a member of parliament, that we would have these persons missing without an explanation. That explanation is desirable under all circumstances, and it should actually be given.
Okay, and however, no explanation was provided as to their whereabouts, which then creates the vacuum for them. How do we operate as a country? If the police, say, for example, they were to say they don't know about the whereabouts of these 3 Kenyans, who then abducted them? We live in a country where we are ruled by the rule of law, we have security establishment and the infrastructure. Does it then mean that there are other elements that are roaming free and abducting Kenyans? And if so...
And unfortunately, we may have to sometimes make such deductions, because we've seen it before. There are criminal elements that commit crimes, and sometimes those crimes are heinous. And before they are brought to book, we have to investigate and pin them down. We've seen it happen everywhere, at the quarry, everywhere else. This does happen. I'm not saying it has happened here, but there is a possibility. It cannot be stated with any certainty that this is the work of the police, unless we are sure it's these police officers whom we are able to pinpoint from these various stations, and this is where the persons were taken. However, if there is information from the general public as regards these persons, again, the public is also under an obligation to come up and inform the investigating agencies on exactly what may have happened. Because it is not just, it's not fair for 3 persons to be missing for a long period of time when we are told they have actually been abducted. We now need to boil down to the abduction itself, by who, for what purpose, and where were the persons taken.
All right. Coming to the court order, which you said that the government had obeyed, let's speak on this very specific case, because it matters. It matters because it has a ripple effect, because it confirms, informs that you will pay at the end, because it's about fuel. A court in Mombasa in August temporarily halted the government's plan to increase a fuel maintenance levy from 18 shillings to 25. That is an increment of about 7 Kenya shillings. The judge issued the order saying that it is urgent, and therefore there was need to factor this in. And this after Kenyans had raised concern when CS Murkomen appeared before the Senate, and to justify why there is the increment. And against this, there was the continuing imposition of this fee on Kenyans, clearly against what the court had ruled.
What my view is that was after the amendments of the fuel levy, possibly, by the House of Parliament. And that increment had not been allowed by the House. I would have to study the circumstances under which the order was made, number one. Number two, at what time it was issued, because if the law, the regulations passed by Parliament had been implemented, then that order was made after the fact. And we have to look at that, because once a law comes into force and it is implemented, a court order may actually be overtaken by events. But I need to get the circumstances clearly so that I know exactly what were the terms of the order, what was supposed to be done, what was done, and what was not done.
All right.
Because sometimes the order alone may not be exactly what the court manifested. We need to see the order. Sometimes even the reporting itself, what we read from the papers or social media, may not be accurate. That's why we insist we want to see the exact order so that if anybody was in contempt, then action should be taken. And sometimes it is not sufficient for us as Kenyans to complain that the government is not honoring court orders. We want to see applications for contempt which culminate in some measure of punishment at every given time. Now we deal with the punishment. The person has been convicted of contempt, he's been punished, or he's been given a punishment as he carried out the punishment.
All right.
That's when we would agree that, in fact, there has been disobedience.
Yes, Franklin.
Yeah. What Honorable Murugara is saying about court orders is fair. And I also appreciate that he comes from the majority side of the aisle.
Yeah.
And therefore he has duty to hold brief for the government, which is fair. But is it real? Is it ideal? Is it what Kenyans really feel? But that I'll leave it at that because it's a court matter. But even if you look at it without going into details, the DCI Kitengela, Mr. Indeke, actually saw an affidavit absolving the police from that. But then what does it speak about the competence of our National Police Service? That 3 weeks down the line, we cannot be able to really get, and that is on the competence aspect. But what about the real issues that we are confronting about this? We have seen the issue that Honorable Murugara has pointed about, the Kware issue. Friends, families, witnesses have come out to say that police have threatened us to stop anything about this. If we get down to retrieving, has anything been done about that? Have legislators picked up this conversation? Has Parliament picked up this conversation? And this is the reasons that we're talking about, that the police is not very clear with us, and the court possibly would have helped to look into this, but any attempts to pursue that is then defeated by convenient explanations and politicized. And police are actually abusing, human rights. And the Kenyans are suffering at the hands of the police. So these are critical issues that we have to look into, even as we get the fair and very sometimes politically correct explanations by our legislators.
All right. When we get back from the break, Diana, I'll begin with you as you proceed with this discussion here, also with Honorable Murugara and Franklin Mukwanja here on the broadcast. The hashtag is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. More after the break here on the broadcast. Stay tuned.